and I want your take on this, Bob, your analysis here. We have all of this unfolding, and we had them 10 and a half weeks ago saying, if you don't do this bailout, we're going to have a depression. And that was finally what really sent the economy down and destroyed confidence. Right there, they were engaging in financial terrorism, which it appears is accelerating the downfall.
Well, I think what you have here is a Hegeling approach, and that is the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, etc. And the 2 steps forward, of course, is the onrushing depression, and the 1 step back would be the stimulus, which is not only coming soon from the new administration, but also the stimulus that's been involved in the figures I put out 3 months ago of over $10 trillion when everybody was talking about $50 billion. And I raised my figure to 12 to 13, and now it's over 20. I mean, we don't know where it's going. And they're just going to throw money at anything. And that money in the form of monetization, which means it'll get into the system and be inflationary, will start hitting probably in March, April, May. And I expect there'll be some kind of a rally in the market because of the anticipation of the stimulus package, which is really peanuts compared to what's being spent or created otherwise. And I think this coming year will be a giant year for gold and silver. Commodities will recover. Inflation will be rampant. And toward the end of the year, perhaps as early as May or June, we'll see a turn down on the market again. And I think that the lows of just recent time, which are around 7,400, and back in 2003 was 7,268, I think that'll be broken. I don't think anything Bob, that can hold a system down.
Bob, on record, you did say a month or so ago when it was down there at 7,000 that it was going to go back up to 9, and then you predicted, going from memory, that it's going to then go down to 4, correct?
It could in stages.
But I mean, you have been saying for several months that you see it.
That's right.
In March of next year, even rallying more, but then we'll find out when you believe it's going to implode, and then how you're coming up with a $20 billion number. Stay with us, or 20 trillion, excuse me. In the first week of December, the Associated Press and San Francisco Chronicle financial writers reported that $8.5 trillion had been taken by the private Federal Reserve, and they would not tell anyone where it went. Lawsuits were filed by Bloomberg, and the feds said no one will be told, not even Congress, as if Congress isn't above the executive. Yeah, it's not equal powers. If you really study the founding of this nation and even state laws and legislatures, they create the courts. They are above the courts. The executive is the weakest. But side issue, for 3+ weeks, we've gotten no new numbers that I know of. Bob Chapman only focuses really on the financial and reads scores of publications a day. Bob, you're always conservative. Where do you come up with the number that $20 trillion has been stolen? Or, projecting from what it was, $1.3 trillion a week, that would have us at about 11.5 to 12 trillion right now. Are you saying you think it'll go to 20 trillion? Or are you saying you believe it's already at 20 trillion?
No, my figure right now is projected presently at 12 to 13. And it could go over 20 very easily. They have to continue to create money and credit, and I suspect what they're doing is they're creating treasury bills. They're not selling them in the marketplace. I think that they're using them as collateral for companies. In other words, they give.
Well, they've said that. They've said that they're leveraging it.
Well, yeah, but in what way? I haven't seen an explanation as to how they're doing that.
No, they're secretive. I mean, you saw the New York Times 2 weeks ago where they said, oh, by the way, the Fed's going to issue its own secret bonds that have the same value as Treasury.
Yes, and I suspect that they've gone ahead and done that before they even announced it. And so the amount of money that is out there in the form of treasuries and loans and the acceptance of rotten collateralization and the creation of money is far beyond what we know. The estimates I've given you are conservative. When I said 10 trillion, everybody laughed, and it was 50 or so billion, and of course we're up there already. And they're fighting an underlying deflation, and they've been doing that for over 5 years. And most of the impetus has been done for solving that problem, suppressing the deflationary aspects of the economy by increasing money and credit. Now they've lowered the interest rates down to virtually zero to throw in a helping hand. Of course, that situation is terminal because they can't go any lower. And so now they've really got to create a lot more paper. And they're going to do that until the system says to the lender, who supposedly is keeping the system floating, if you may, that we're not going to borrow anymore. We're just not going to do it.
Okay, Bob.
When that happens, it'll collapse.
Now, Bob, I got two questions. From all the evidence I've seen and the Inside Bilderberg info and even their public statements, the Financial Times admitting 2 years ago that they were going to use this to consolidate power, it is engineered. And they've still shut down liquidity and loans and credit to the public and Main Street, and it appears they're only massing it into themselves while it still has some fiat value with people's perception, buying up real assets and literally war chesting for war physically with classic tyranny. And so they're just buying time to get their system in place. So, A, do you agree that they've engineered it, or you're saying that they've lost control? And then, B, you've been saying 2 to 3 years for the last year. Are you revising it, saying it looks like it's accelerating?
No, I don't think it's accelerating. And they're still in the same mode, trying to do the same thing. They originally engineered it. It did get out of their control because I don't think that they thought they would not be able to get rid of all of the CDOs and SIVs they have, which are bonds containing mortgages. That's really what they get stuck with. And they had sold a lot of it, most of it in Europe, and they get stuck with it. And at the same time, the loans, which are within that structure of those bonds, have gone down in value because, our average person has a value in his home of $250,000 and owes $310,000.
But a lot of people, millions a month are losing their jobs or getting pay cuts. I mean, it's a depression for a lot of people out there. Let's come back and talk about how you see this unfolding. Then we're going to go to phone calls from Gary, Matt, Barry, Brian, Kim, and others. We're talking to Bob Chapman, the internationalforecaster.com. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Your phone calls are coming up here in just a few minutes with Bob Chapman. Really appreciate him joining us once a week. Before we go back to Bob and Gary, Matt, Barry, Brian, Kim, many others that are patiently holding, so you can ask your questions of Bob, who's one of the most accurate financial forecasters I've seen. So we're honored to have him. I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, and that's survivalistseeds.com. Grow your own healthy food for just 4 pennies a pound and break free of the New World Order. These are heirloom seeds, meaning they're not even hybrid, folks. These are ancient seed varieties, really high quality. This family business buys in massive bulk and passes those huge discounts on to the listeners of this show. 15,000 heirloom seeds will provide your family with 7 years of healthy food. Stop buying and eating New World Order food. Grow your own healthy food in your backyard. That's 15,000 heirloom seeds for $129. That's real food insurance for the difficult times we are experiencing already. Heirloom seeds are the original varieties, non-GMO, non-hybrid. All these seeds date back over a century. Their Mayflower bean came over on the Mayflower